Welcome to this edition of Ask the Preacher. Today, our topic is faith. What is faith? What does the Bible say about it? Well, in a nutshell, I have talked about faith and studied about faith for a lot of years, but I went back to the scripture and I tried to find the first time in the Old Testament that the word faith is used. Not sure that I found it. Here's what I found. First of all, the word faith is included in the word faithfulness. And so many of the passages of Scripture that use the word faith, it's in the word faithfulness. Now, what is faith and what is faithfulness? Faith is trust in God. It's putting our confidence in Him. It's doing more than believing in God. It's living our lives like we know Him and wanting faith to be part of who we are. Now, faith is the evidence of things not seen, the confidence in what we haven't been able to witness. In other words, most of us have not seen God in the flesh or in physical manifestation, if any of us have today. But faith is putting our trust in Him anyways. Faithfulness is acting on our faith. And so in the Old Testament and New Testament as well, it was vitally important that they acted on their faith. And it's vitally important that we also are faithful, acting on our faith. An example of the Old Testament is in Genesis 5:21 and following. When Enoch had lived 65 years, he became the father of Methuselah. After he became the father of Methuselah, Enoch walked faithfully with God 300 years, had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Enoch lived a total of 365 years. Enoch walked faithfully with God. Then he was no more because God took him away. Now, I don't believe that Enoch started walking faithfully with God when his son was born, Methuselah. Probably his entire life he walked faithfully with God, but he acted on the faith that he had. Some other passages, and I don't see the word faith necessarily, but the concept is here. Let me give an example. Genesis 15, God's been talking to Abram, soon to be Abraham, about what his life was going to look like and how God was going to take him and show him a land, and God was going to bless him and bless others who blessed him, and God was going to curse those who cursed him. And you remember that. God was going to give him more descendants than the sand on the seashore and the stars in the sky. Genesis 15:6 says, Abram believed the Lord, and he credited to him as righteousness. That word believe, and many times believe and faith are interchangeable, especially in the Old Testament. But again, we understand that faith is more than simple belief. Faith is putting your trust in God, so you're acting on the belief that you have. James tells us that even the demons believe and they shudder. And that's why I say faithfulness is very important as part of our faith. Let's go to the New Testament. Let's go to Romans chapter 10, where Paul talks here. He says, there is no difference between Jew and Gentile. The same Lord is Lord of all and richly blesses those who call on him. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. How then can they call on the one in whom they've not believed? How can they believe in the one of whom they've not heard? And how can they hear without someone proclaiming the message to them? And how can anyone proclaim the message unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. But not all the Israelites accepted the good news. For Isaiah says, Lord, who has believed our message? Consequently, faith comes from hearing the message. The message is heard through the word about Christ. Number of things here. Yes, everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. But Paul says, how can they call on the name of the Lord unless they hear? How can they hear unless someone preaches or proclaims the message? If you want beautiful feet, take the message of Christ to others. Now, it's not that your feet will be that much different. As a matter of fact, I think that the early disciples that traveled around, I think their feet were probably pretty dirty and scuffed up and full of calluses and everything. There's no beauty in that, but I don't find that anybody else's feet are beautiful anyways. It's what you do. It's the heart that says people need to hear about Jesus. Later on, Paul quotes, that faith comes by hearing by the word of Christ. And so if we want to grow in our faith, it's going to be by being in the Word. It's going to be knowing Jesus better. And that includes his church, so it includes the rest of the New Testament especially, but even the Old Testament, to see what God does. And so we need to continue to grow in faith by drawing near to Christ. When we're in the Word, we learn about God. Sometimes we're confronted with hard passages. Sometimes we need to ask others or seek resources to help us with that. But we need to grow in our faith as we see lots of things happening in the world. Some things we like, many things we don't. But when we put our trust in God, he will bring us through. That's when we grow in faith and faithfulness. Thank you for asking the preacher.